This is a recap of UFC Fight Night Machado Gary versus PRATES. First off, sorry for the late video, but nevertheless, over here on the right, you can see I had 11 out of 14 correct, and I had 7 perfect picks. I had Zhang KO round 1, Machado Gary by decision, Onama by decision, Alaskarov KO round 1, Schnell by decision, Elder by decision, Gutierrez by decision. I had some other close one. Amarim submission, just had the wrong round. Some interesting fights. So in the main event, my thinking was that if Carlos Prates was gonna win, it was gonna be by KO at some point in the fight. Earlier than later was my thinking. And if he wasn't able to do that, I thought the more likely outcome was gonna be Ian Garry to win by decision. Though Ian Garry had some moments on the feet, he, like in the MVP fight, when he was facing off versus another strong striker, he tends to shy away from it and go to the grappling. And that's what he tried to do in this fight, although I don't even recall if he had any takedowns. I think Carlos defended most of them. But when he wasn't wanting to strike anymore, he'd try for a takedown. And when he wasn't comfortable with the striking, he does a lot of circling outside the cage and more point fighting. So that's what he did. He was able to win a decision based off his performance. But just another note on this fight was that I thought it was strange. I thought Carlos Prates fought strange. And I guess I am a conspiracy guy in many aspects, even when it comes to fights. But Carlos didn't seem like he was trying very hard to knock out Gary. And in the 5th round, I'm sure as you all know, he didn't look very determined to ground and pound him and finish him. He was just throwing a couple of hammer fists, then he'd just hover over him and look and move around a little, then drop another couple of hammer fists. It didn't look genuine. So strange. I'll just leave it at that for now. The next fight, this was kind of clear as day, and that's why I got this perfect pick. It was Anthony Smith is Anthony Smith. I guess we'll never see him again. But he's the type of fighter that if he gets hit pretty hard, at least in his later career, if he gets hit hard, he'll crumple and he'll curl up. And we saw that. I don't remember which fight or fights it was off the top of my head, but I just remember him doing that several times. And we know Zhang is a strong striker. We knew Anthony was going to get hit. So that was a pretty easy pick. David Onama, decision against Giga. I think it was a fair decision. Going into this fight, I no longer had a fascination or for Giga just because he's Georgian and he used to be a rising star until he had a couple losses. Similar to another Georgian fighter who just lost not too long ago. I don't recall his name. But those two fighters, you can't just assume they're going to win just because they're Georgian, like Ilya Topuria and a bantamweight champion. Can't remember his name. The next fight, Abus Magomedov versus Michael Pereira. This was suspicious. I even tweeted at one point after the 2nd round, I believe, that these fighters should be investigated. Michael Pereira wasn't fighting like he normally does. I swear the only shots he threw were a left hook to the body over and over. We didn't see any explosive attempts to knock out Abus. And the next fight, Randy Brown. He won KO, right hook. Now, Randy Brown did better than I thought he would. I did have him winning, but by decision. In his fight against that guy who played N in Paris for his walkout song. Oh, Brian Battle. I thought he won that fight, but at the same time, he didn't look as good in his striking as he did in this fight. So I thought he would look kind of similar as he did in the last fight, but he looked way better, more vicious. I don't know if it's because Nicholas Dalby is older and he knew he was fighting an older opponent, so he just went to work. But he did a good job. Ikram, this one was kind of obvious. With these fighters, especially this Ikram, they want him to be a star. So after his failed performance against Robert Whittaker, they're going to give him Andre Muniz, just to give him a bounce back fight. after his loss. And he got a KO in round 1. I didn't necessarily see the KO coming, but I knew he would most likely win. Next fight, Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick. This was honestly a toss-up, and the fight itself was pretty close. So I'm not going to take too much credit on this correct pick, but is what it is. Next fight, Evan Elder versus Gage Young. Evan Elder did a good job. Gage Young seemed a little gun-shy. He had some moments, but he wasn't throwing enough. He showed that he's tough enough to be in there. When people are landing on him, he doesn't quit. He'll take the punishment, but he needs to have more output. Next fight, Chris Gutierrez won by split decision. And that's what I had. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty buzzed at this point, so I don't have much input on this fight. And then the next fight, Damon Blackshear versus Alatangali. I know I said that wrong. Damon Blackshear won. It was a fair decision. Alatang was throwing a lot of hooks or big over right hands. Got close, but never really landed one. And that's really all he had to offer in this fight. I guess Damon had the better footwork and the better shots. Even though he was circling around a lot, he did have decent output. The next fight, this was so sad. Another one of those situations where it's just because someone's a training partner of a UFC star or UFC champion, you can't assume they're bound to be great either. So even though Cameron Simon had the better UFC experience, he wasn't able to pull off the victory. Malcolm Wellmaker got a nice KO in round 1. Good for him. And then next fight, this was, I must say, I do my own picks, but I also do listen to some other people, and after I make my own picks. And the community was pretty much all on Jacqueline Amorim, and rightfully so. Aliana Viana had nothing to offer. At one point, I saw her throw a 1-2, which just looked pretty pathetic, and it was nowhere near Jacqueline. Anyway, move on. Timmy Kwamba, it was a nice flying knee. He did a good job. I think in the first round looked kind of even, but then Timmy just opened up in the second. And throughout the whole fight, he was mixing it up very well, which allowed him to land a strike like a flying knee. So he did a great job. And Jocelyn Edwards versus Chelsea Chandler. I guess this was another obvious one after the fact, but I had Jocelyn winning as well, but I didn't expect her to get a KO. Anyway, those were the results of the fight. And there's another fight card tomorrow, so I will put out a quick pick video of the fights for Saturday night. And as you can see here, I had 11 out of 14. The last card I had 11 out of 13. So I'm going to try and keep that momentum going. Anyway, good luck to everybody. And I do have some bets that I won. They're on my Twitter if you want to look at them. I had Machado Garry winning, and I had the Gutierrez fight going under 2.5 rounds against John Castaneda. No, I'm sorry, that wasn't it. I'm sorry, it was the Timmy Kwamba versus Robert Romero fight going under 2 rounds, 2.5 rounds. One bet I'd lose was the Michael Pereira fight. MFer. You know, if he had fought his heart out, it wouldn't hurt bad, but kind of seemed like threw the fight on purpose. Anyway, good luck to everyone tomorrow.